Welcome, everybody, to our live update. And I have a special guest joining me right now. John Howler is here. And thank you for joining me, John. Looking forward to a great program. I know you have so many things going on. And by the way, everybody, this is live, so please send in your questions, send in your comments. We have a lot to talk about. John, I'm going to get you wound up, and I'm going to let you talk about whatever you want to, because you're always fun. You always have something to say. This is from our friend Brad Reeves. He said, Trump just said it again. This is just a few minutes ago. Trump just said it again. If it weren't for me, Israel would not be a nation right now. I think, you know, we heard him say that before. A lot to talk about. John, what in the world is going on right now? Let's focus on Israel. What do you make of everything, the so-called deal?
So I have a lot of friends in Israel, as do you. And I've been doing interviews with people in Israel, did some yesterday for a couple hours, did one last week with Miri Eisen, a security expert. And in Rabbi Walicki from Israel 365. Oh, yeah. And I will say this, I challenge you. Well, I take it back. I think I know one of my friends at JNS who sort of says, oh, you know, Trump's got a plan. Trump's got a plan. Look, I don't know that he has a plan. And I don't like it if he's being deceptive to implement that plan. And he has to be deceptive to implement that plan. And I have a major problem with that. And I'll tell you what, Mr. President, if you think this deal, if this memorandum of understanding, which is going to be vague anyway, is so great, release it to the public, not your talking points. And don't run around threatening your Secretary of War, your CIA director, your Secretary of State, and others that if they don't give full-throated support to it, I'm firing you.
Okay, I got to ask you.
I don't like this at all.
I have to ask you, but so I saw that this morning, and this is crazy. So
he said it again this afternoon.
So that is, he actually said it. I didn't have to, I had just have Mondo on, and I have some other guests on all morning. So I saw it and I thought, this is crazy. He actually said that?
I'll take it back. That's being reported from multiple sources.
That is nuts. All right, I got another question for you. Gary McKibben is in our chat right now. What do you say? Hey, Matthew, can I ask you this?
What's up?
Is it possible to bring Gary McKibben in this also?
Send him on link and bring him in.
A few minutes, we definitely can.
Oh, Mike Spaulding's here too. I'll tell you what, we'll do one at a time.
We'll do a big round table.
Let's bring Gary McKibben in for about 5 minutes if he can, and Mike Spaulding too. Ask them if they can, and we'll bring them both into this. This is off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me work on it.
Again, John and I will both be with Mike Spaulding here in just a few weeks.
Folks. This is live stuff right now.
Yeah, this is definitely live. All right. So, I mean, I'm looking at things going on. This is just absolutely nuts. So, Tanya Koenig wrote this, and you would get this, especially being an attorney.
I recorded something with Bill last night with Olivier.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So this probably came up then. She wrote, this is how I see the reported U.S. Iran Memorandum of Understanding, because that's what she's calling it, an MOU. Right. I do not call it a deal. Every entrepreneur understands the difference between an MOU and this deal, so to speak. I've had drawers full of MOUs. They can create a movement, headlines, expectations, and signatures, but they remain intentions. They are not performance. They are not trust. They are not fulfillment. When the other party is Iran, that distinction is not technical. It is the heart of the matter. It's okay, here's our intentions, but it's Iran. And where's Israel in this? And okay, right, you mentioned Rabbi Walicki. You just talked with him. I had him on about a month ago. What was he saying about what's happening?
Well, I would say most people are they're sort of not trying to have a public meltdown over this. There's a concern. Here's my biggest problem, and I had J. Micah Hancock from All Israel News yesterday, and Steve, the tour guide, who's a really great guy, Stephen Ben Yashai, and we were all saying is that this is the biggest problem that I have so far among many. But the largest one is when this thing was being talked about. And as they always do, Iran had Hezbollah send drones, missiles, whatever, into Israel, and Israel bombed Beirut, and Trump went ballistic on Israel. That's in his True Social post.
Yeah.
He never mentions Hezbollah. Well, he does sort of the like, oh yeah, they probably shouldn't shoot either. This is an existential threat to Israel, and I've been talking to people. The drones are bad. I know people are optimistic that they're going to get a countermeasure to the fly-by-wire drones, but I heard a expert on IDSF podcast a week or two ago from Tel Aviv University. He said, yeah, we'll probably get that covered in a few months, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then they're going to do autonomous AI chips that don't have to communicate with anything on the ground. They can be completely sealed off from communication. And so I think people think, well, we'll just Israel get in and hack the AI thing. I don't know that that's going to happen, Tom.
Well,
you have to explain to me. So there's a lot of hopium out there, and I'm not really buying into it. I think this is a big issue because Israel has emptied out a lot of people in the north now. A lot of that stuff, I mean, stuff that we would take our tour groups to is closed.
Yeah,
in the north.
It's that we were able to go there. Well, you were there the same time I was, just back in October. So we were able to go.
You were like following me, or I was following you.
Yeah, we actually ended up at Nova like 5 minutes apart.
Right.
And then and we were able to go up north and check out all those things. But here we are again looking at this, and I have these concerns. So I have so many questions to ask you. By the way, Pookie commented. He says, is Rubio and Hegseth about to get the boot, or what? Not jumping on board with crazy Vance and Trump? Is Trump losing? He says Trump losing his junk. But I mean, you look at this. I gotta ask you as I watch this, how much of what we see taking place do you think, if it's real, if it's not just Trump playing some game, if it's real, all right, is it because he's being affected by the social media platforms of the Tucker Carlsons and the others? Because his base is definitely fractured from what it has been. And is that maybe what's happening with Trump?
I think he's trying to protect the midterms. But I have no doubt in my mind that he's let it be known around the White House, you oppose this publicly, I'm firing you. Now, I would say at some point, solid ethics would require Huckabee, Rubio, Hegseth to resign. Just leave him to his own devices. I'm not happy. Look, if it's theater, it's not good theater. And it is not lost. I mean, it was in DC a few weeks ago, and they're building the big the Ultimate Fighting Championship cage match on the south lawn of the White House. Now, look, every president does stupid things at the White House. Obama had all the transgender people over there for a balloon fest or something like that. But it is not lost on me that in the midst of all this, we have modern day gladiators fighting it out on the lawn of the White House. Tom, many years ago, when I was much, much younger, I made my first trip to DC. It might have been Pam and I went. But I remember as we drove in and we drove down to the National Mall, saw the Capitol, White House and all that, and the monuments, I thought, this is our Rome. And I see a lot of those things going on now, and I'm concerned about it.
Yeah. That was a great comment, by the way, in the text that you sent earlier, our Rome, and bread and circuses. You look at what's going on. When the world's really going on. By the way, Kathy the Italian says, is this the Daniel peace deal? No, it's not, Kathy. We're not there yet. And this is something else. What do you think?
Can I say, just comment on that real quick?
Do.
Because the Daniel peace deal, everybody says, is this it? Is Ezekiel 38, 39? What I've seen, so I'll make two comments. What you're seeing now, though, is we don't know how this Daniel peace deal is publicized. If it's a guy like Trump, it's going to be all over the place, right? but it might be done in secret. And there are probably secret deals with people. I don't trust the Saudis. They're kind of spectacularly quiet. But then the other thing too is with the Saudis, we know we always talk at Ezekiel 38, Sheba and Dedan. Don't think there's any question, but that's Saudi Arabia. They're saying, what are you guys doing? Why are you coming into Israel? Why are you doing this? What have the Saudis been doing for the last few weeks? Why are you guys doing this? Why is you could have peace? Why are you doing this? We're in the middle of the Hajj. We have all these people here. Please, don't do this. I mean, so you're getting little snippets of previews of how this stuff might look like could be in the near term. I don't know how quickly.
Kathy Hill has a good question I'll get to in a minute. Both you and I will have a fun time talking about it. So we'll hold on to that question for a minute, Kathy. But is this something else that Tanya Koenig wrote? You might have talked about it. I'm thinking with Bill last night and Olivier. The people around Trump matter because personnel become policy. J.D. Vance, Witkoff, Jared Kushner are not background figures in this story. They represent a particular instinct, restraint without strategic clarity, business style, deal making without the hard memory of Iranian deception, and a belief that personal access, Gulf mediation, investment language, reconstruction, etc., and signatures can solve what is fundamentally ideological, revolutionary, and prophetic. Witkoff and Kushner think like deal men, and then she went on to describe that. Tehran, she wrote, is not seeking a respectable place in the market. It is a revolutionary regime that uses negotiations to buy time, money to rebuild capacity, and proxies to bleed its enemies while keeping its hands formally clean. Indeed, I mean, you and I have had many discussions about Witkoff and Kushner thinking like deal men, and then she writes, Vance is the double figure in this equation. Okay, before you comment on this, because I know your wheels are turning, you want to, Gary McKibben is in the waiting room, so I'm going to have him join us.
Bring him in. Okay, bring in the Irish guy.
So Gary's coming in. John, take it away, because I know you want to say something, and Gary will hear it.
No, I agree with Tanya. There's so many things going on so many different levels. And while it is a memorandum of understanding, it's like a letter of intent that we would negotiate. It's part of the negotiations that we would have, like getting to a contract in legal terms. But clearly, I think Trump refers to it as a deal. This is a great deal, all this stuff. I'm just having a major problem with this on so many levels because of they talk about the money involved, the $300 billion investment fund. This is being released. They authorized billions of dollars to be released by the UAE to Iran. I think it was UAE. So the UAE, and I think Qatar also did a deal like this too, so they can get their gas or oil out and make money, and then spend it here, influencing people wrongly. So I said this last week. This is my opinion. With President Trump, who I voted for 3 times, by the way, okay, and might again, depending on who's running against him. We are at a Nebuchadnezzar moment. Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar thought pretty highly of himself. The problem is that when Nebuchadnezzar had his moment, he had Daniel at his side. Trump has Paula
White. What a great, that is just great observation. Paula White is not a Daniel.
And my other observation too is that the Prince of Persia that we read about in Daniel chapter 10 seems to be expanding its borders.
Here's something else very interesting. Hormuz Shariat brought up, as you look back to the book of Daniel, it was Gabriel that was held up by the Prince of Persia. And he said, this demonic spirit over Persia is the master of delay, the demon of delay. It's just like delay everything. Delay the angel Gabriel, delay in order for them to bring about their plan. Hey, Gary, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's good to be here.
So we're obviously talking about Israel. I'm curious, you're from over in the UK. Introduce yourself to everybody real quick so they know, anybody that might not know you.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I'm not speaking in tongues. This is my voice. This is my accent. So, yeah, I'm a pastor in Northern Ireland, which has been hitting the headlines recently for all of the wrong reasons. But really, to get right to it, we're a melting pot right now. We're about to bubble over. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than if you don't know me,
Yes, I,
probably blessed.
so are you guys having, it looks like what's happening over there where you are in the UK, there's like a civil war that is definitely brewing. Is that an observation?
Yeah, well, certainly. So Stephen Ogilvy was attacked on the Monday. For those who don't know, and I think it's went all the way around the world, it was a potential beheading. And straight away the powers that be came out and said this is an isolated incident, which is incorrect. I know of quite a few incidents that have all been called isolated incidents. And it's not unique to Northern Ireland, it's the whole of the United Kingdom. It's also the south of Ireland as well. What we've seen since has come off the back of this is really interesting. Liz Kendall, the Secretary of State for Science and Technology, is bringing in this week censorship laws in times of crisis. So think back to COVID, when you couldn't say certain things online. This is what's happening here. So whilst there was a whole load of protests, a lot of them peaceful, then there was a lot of riots and a lot of violence on the streets. A lot of that's been curtailed because there's been prosecution of citizen journalists. I know of one very close to us who has been arrested for covering the footage of a protest that turned into a riot. In it, he was telling people not to get involved, to be calm, but he was arrested and denied bail on the grounds the judge said that he was an existential risk to society. So I think what you're seeing over here, certainly, I think Europe, Mark Carney said today that Europe is the forerunner for the New World Order. And I think that everything is sort of bubbling over here. It's gone all the way through the UK. Yesterday, we saw a guy called Young Bob. Young Bob is a 17-year-old political activist. They're conservative, very like your Charlie Kirk, right? You know, in that sense that he would go out and he would debate with people. We saw him attacked on the streets of Manchester, beaten up, concussed, just for talking. There was a protest in Brighton at the weekend in which there was anti-fascist, anti-racist element protesting, but then there was the other side. And there was a mother of a young lady who was murdered, Rihanna White. Rihanna White was stabbed 23 times in the head with a screwdriver by an asylum seeker. And these anti-fascist, anti-racist protesters started to protest with the chant, "She deserved it." And so what you're seeing right now is, think like the BLM stuff, everything's sort of bubbling over. You're seeing Marxist ideologues, anti-fascism basically disguised as Antifa. And then you're seeing those who are holding the conservative values being pushed to the side, two-tier system, everything has went to pot. And now we've got not just online censorship in terms of Liz Kendall, but we've got the under 16 social media ban coming in. Now, it shows you how this is. This is like a Joseph Goebbels dream. This is all censorship. The social media ban coming in is targeting things like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of those things. But it's not targeting left-leaning platforms such as Blue Sky. They're absolved from this. Instead, this censorship is only out there for people going on these platforms in which they might hear an alternative argument, an alternative point of view. And from my point of view, I told him this on Sunday, I have never been more concerned for the area that I live in than I have now, because those in power are gaslighting a whole section of the community. They're being brandished with the term racist or right wing just because they don't like open borders. And I still think what we're going to see is continual bubbling over. And, I think it's spread now past Belfast. It's now Scotland, England, and across the place. And it's going to, unfortunately, it's going to build, because we keep gaslighting a section of the community, brandishing them as one thing, and then adding censorship on the top of that. And all you're doing is exacerbating the frustration. So, yeah, it's an interesting time.
It looks intentional to create this chaos and this lawlessness. John, I know you want to have something for Gary. Oh, your mic's off. Can't hear you.
So Gary, I mean, how serious is the unrest that's been going on? I mean, it's kind of hard to sift through media from afar, but what's it like on the ground there?
This week has been pretty calm. Last week, not so much. You had about, I think, 24 houses, well, at least 24 houses were burned down. Now, the dictate of that is that these were all houses for asylum seekers or immigrants. No, there were locals' houses burned down too. So what you get is that it's the same as anywhere. You will get a protest, but then you get a contingent within the protesters, usually a disenfranchised youth, who will go out and create havoc. And I think that's what you're seeing is frustration bubbling over. In terms of across the whole of the United Kingdom, ever since this happened, the Stephen Ogilvy, I am getting multiple stories every single day of similar things, attacks. And it's not unique to Northern Ireland or Ireland, but the nature of these attacks has become more and more so. If we go back to 2022, it was in Sligo. There was a double beheading in Sligo, an attempted third beheading, but a double beheading. And then there was a girl I know through our homeless outreach. Her niece was murdered. It turned out by an asylum seeker. That was what the police found out. She had her throat slit. But initially, this is where the gaslighting comes in. Initially, when her throat was slit from one end to the other, she was told that it was a suicide.
Oh.
And yeah, so this is where there's frustration coming in with people. And I think if you ignore people long enough, eventually things bubble over,
Yeah. They're definitely bubbling over there. I look at what's happening over there in the UK and spreading to various places of Europe, and then we see what's going on in Israel, and then we think of technology, and it's not an accident that all of these things are happening at the same time. John, just as you just connect all these different dots, what would be your warning to everybody? Oh, by the way, Gary, is it your birthday today?
It is, yeah.
Oh, Lorraine James told us to wish you a happy birthday. That's how we know. So
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Pastor Gary.
Thank you.
John, I mean, these things are coming from everywhere, and it's nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the corner of my eye, I'm watching JD Vance on the Megyn Kelly show today. And by the way, the feed was picked up from RT television in Russia.
Imagine that. And
so JD, was my senator, he is attacking anyone who opposes the deal that Trump has. So Trump calls it a deal, or Trump calls it a deal, JD calls it a deal, everybody's calling it a deal. And I agree with Tanya Koenig that it's not technically a deal, but it is a framework. And if it's so stinking good, show us what it says, not your talking points about it, for crying out loud. We're adults. And I think he's doing it because he knows. Look, we're sort of in the realm of speculation. I was just looking at a post from my friend Jonathan Spire, who was at the Middle East Forum. I got to spend a little time with him. Actually, sat across from near him at dinner one night, and he's saying, so he's kind of doing a recap, like, where are we? What all's going on? And I think we're in a really weird time. Remember, there was this supposed, we're going to give Hezbollah weapons that we've confiscated to the Kurds. The Kurds are going to invade, and we're going to bring Ahmadinejad in to lead. And this supposedly came from one of the, like David Barnea, I think one of the Mossad guys. And everybody said, this was nuts. And maybe it's great that Trump said no. But the point that Jonathan makes about that on Facebook is, listen, this thing was designed to bring down the regime, to bring the Ayatollah and IRGC heads on a plate. And what happened, though, was Marco Rubio and Trump kind of intervened, shut down the thing with the Kurds because it was ticking off the Turks. Talk about that in just a moment. And they went in and said, well, but we're going to do a maximum bombing campaign and pressure. And so what they did was they rejected what needed to be done with stuff on the people on the ground. They did a maximum air campaign to get the same result, which everybody knew was never going to happen. And as a result, the Strait of Hormuz gets shut down. Oil has been shut down, has been restricted. And we haven't seen how that's going to play out over the next 6 months. And this, you layer this on top of the midterms. So the other day, Trump's in the White House. I tore my Achilles tendon the other day. So I did a update with Brian Schrager and Mark Sutherland, Brian from Israel. And so I didn't get to a lot of things that I had. So I had some stuff. So Trump comes out in the Oval Office, says, oh, Erdogan's a great guy, wonderful guy, great leader, all this stuff. This is complete nonsense. Why is he stroking Erdogan? Because what did Erdogan do in response? He did 2 speeches within 24 hours. He compared Bibi Netanyahu in Israel to Hitler. And he said, they're going to come to their end just like Hitler did. He said, Israel's expanding its borders. They're going after the borders, Lebanon and our brothers in Lebanon and Syria. And that's a direct attack on us. So here's a guy who spent years expanding his borders in northern Syria, who leads a country who's committed genocide like crazy. And then he has the audacity to say that what happened in Gaza is the worst genocide in human history. And Trump is praising this nut.
Well, all right. So I look at these different dynamics. You mentioned the midterms are coming up. You look at this and go, what's going to happen with Huckabee, Hegseth, and obviously Marco Rubio. And then as Tanya Koenig points out, she writes, when she's talking about Wickoff and Kushner and others, she says Vance is the double figure in the whole equation. I mean, what are your thoughts on Vance, if you want to give him out publicly?
Well, I think right now, I would say if he runs for president in 2028, he's not getting my vote. He's got a lot of weaknesses that he's got to shore up. No way would I support this guy for president, assuming we're having elections. I don't even know. It's crazy.
Assuming we're having elections. Hey, Gary, so I have another question for you. Someone said Messianic Gentile. Proverbs 30 said, what a long name. I saw a clip of Elon Musk encouraging people to fight against migrants in the UK. Was that real? If so, may I have your thoughts on it, please?
Yeah, it was real, and so it came to the fore with the Liz Kendall approach. So one of the reasons they're saying about online censorship and enforced crisis censorship is because they say they don't want foreign actors influencing politics. It's kind of hypocritical because they're quite open to say anything about American politics and things that are going on in America. Certainly when it came to the BLM movement in 2020, the George Floyd thing, half of the politicians over here were all doing the virtue signaling with, the taking of the knee. And yet, when Henry Novak was murdered, and we all saw the video of that a few weeks ago, the body cam footage coming out of him lying on the ground handcuffed by the police because race was talked about. So Elon Musk has a point. I don't particularly trust Elon Musk. I see him as part because the PCAT system around Donald Trump. I'm kind of suspicious of all of those guys, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, all of them. Even JD Vance that you were just talking about because of the involvement with Praxis. And if you dig deep into the ideology behind Praxis, it all rests with the Nazi regime and the SS sort of Ariosophy, all of that sort of stuff. It all ties together because the Praxis group in which Vance and Thiel and all belong to, they all give out to their employees SS material and SS previous Ariosophy material. So when it comes to Elon Musk, do not trust him. See him as a technocrat, but he has a point. And our governments over here, whether it's the devolved government in Northern Ireland, the Southern government, or the UK government, are all in turmoil. And I'll finish with this because I'll let you guys continue. I'm on my phone because we're in a hotel right now, so I'll run out of battery very quickly.
Okay.
But I'll finish with this. Where we're sitting in Northern Ireland is incredibly unique, but it is a lesson for the rest of the world. So I've had people from America suggest, why don't you just vote in someone different? Our government in Northern Ireland does not set our immigration policies. Our immigration policies are set by Westminster. So they're set on the mainland, right, in the House of Commons. And where we sit, we don't have a hard border with the Republic of Ireland anymore. We have an open border. So one of the major problems with this is Europe, Brussels sets the immigration policies now under Protocol 21 for the south of Ireland. They say this is how many you're going to take. And they come into the south of Ireland and they just travel up to the north of Ireland, and now they're in the United Kingdom and they can claim all benefits from the UK government and claim asylum here. And what that's doing is we have become the back door into the United Kingdom for immigration, and we don't have any control over it. Now, the reason I say that's a lesson for everybody around the world is I personally see what is happening geopolitically is the development of the international geopolitical superstate or superstate alliances, Venezuela, the United States, possibly Cuba, all of these things. You take, John was talking about Turkey, Erdogan. Well, Syria is by proxy of Turkey under al-Jalani. All of that, it's the development of a superstate in which individuals, not necessarily native to your land, not necessarily in your jurisdiction, will make decisions for the policies that you have to adhere to as a citizen in this area. And I think that's part of the approach as we get closer to 2030. And also what John was saying, the detachment and the isolation with Israel. And I think everything is falling into place. It's not falling apart, it's falling into place. It's just horrible sometimes to see on the street level, in person, the amount of lovelessness that has invaded this world and the discord that is so on. So,
yeah.
Gary, a long speech.
Well, that was great. That was great insight and clarity for everything that's happening there. We know that you guys are under the gun, literally, over there in the UK. And I'll let you get back to your family and get off your phone.
Gary, just let me say one thing. So when I was reading last week about I think the guy's name was Henry Nowak, the 18-year-old guy who was stabbed by a Sikh guy in Southampton. I may have the name wrong. But so the Sikh guy comes and stabs this guy. He's bleeding out. So the Sikh guy says, the cops come and he says, oh, he was shouting racist thing. So the guy's bleeding out on the ground and the British cops handcuff the guy bleeding out on the ground. And then when the Sikh guy went to trial, the cops went in and said, oh, we need to make public statements, Judge, because we think there's disinformation out there about what happened, guys. So what they did in Southampton, in England, was they had trained these guys using a book, which I got a PDF copy of and started reading it. 2 pages is enough to make you throw up. It's called Me and White Supremacy. And so these cops have been completely brainwashed with this garbage. And that is a very good indicator of end times, because you see all these people on the right in America, they're falling for clear propaganda. It's shoved in our faces all the time, and people are falling for it. And then my conclusion last week was the Antichrist will do stuff like this, and we think he's got to be this. Listen, he's going to do this in a cakewalk. It's not even. He's not even going to break a sweat doing it.
He is called the lawless one in there.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Mike Spaulding is waiting for us to join John.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to let Gary go with his family. Hey, Gary, real quick, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can get me on YouTube, Pastor Gary McKibben. Just type that in. You come up. VictoryChurchBelfast.com, Facebook, Victory Church Online on Facebook, and then there's Twitter, there's TikTok and all. I don't know how to use the rest of them. Somebody else does all that. So YouTube's the best way.
Okay, YouTube's the best way. Okay, great. Thank you, Gary, and for joining us, and it was just great. God bless you. We'll be talking to you soon, and we're gonna let Mike Spaulding take your place. All right, John. Mike's gonna join us. I want to go back over to what's happening over in the Middle East for the next few minutes. We had this question that came in, John, while we're waiting for Mike to get on the screen. This question came in from Kathy, and it was regarding Ezekiel chapter 38. Can you put it again? Let's see. It'll show up here. Well, I pretty much remember it. There we go. Kathy Hill. The Bible says Israel will be alone with only God to defend them in Ezekiel 38. Could all this be leading up to this? I would say this, Kathy, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mike and John. It could be leading up to it, but Ezekiel 38 is not going to happen today. So I'll put it that way. But yes, we have geopolitical shiftings that take place. John has already talked about Turkey. John has a lot to say about Turkey. But right now, let's welcome Mike Spaulding. Pastor Mike, thank you. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your schedule. By the way, you have a conference coming up at your area. When is that? It's coming up in Ohio?
Yeah, July 24th and 25th at Harvest Revival Center in Brookville, Ohio, just a little bit west of Dayton. You're going to be there speaking. John's going to be there speaking. Our mutual friend Olivier Melnick will be there speaking, and a whole bunch of other wonderful brothers. Register at gothereforeconference.com.
I can't wait to be there. It's going to be fantastic.
It is.
And really looking forward to it. Okay, Mike, I want to ask you this, and I know John's going to want to jump back in. So we can talk about Ezekiel 38 if we want, but let me ask you your thoughts on what is going on with Trump and the whole deal and different threats that are coming out. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys doing this, and I saw it was going live, so I jumped on because I wanted to hear your take. And everybody's talking. I said, well, I've been questioning what happened in the meetings with Xi Jinping when Trump went to China. What happened? Because it's apparent to everybody that there was an about face. There was a complete change in the approach, the demeanor, the public statements that were made. Rubio seemed to take a step back. I haven't heard squat from Hegseth, but Vance is out there now. It's like he's the spokesperson. And I thought, what in the world's going on? Is there any relationship to that trip to China? And this is probably going to make some Trump supporters very, very angry. But I'm gonna share this anyway. So I was reading Sunday evening. I was reading a book by our mutual friend Patrick Wood. His newest book, in fact, the Economics of Technocracy. And I paused when I was reading it, And I looked at my wife, said, Kathy, you got to hear this. And so I read this paragraph. I'd like to share it with you. And of course, your viewers will want to jump in there. And John, I know you'll have some comments, but this is what Patrick wrote. And this is his brand new book, The Economics of Technocracy. He said in 2021, Donald Trump called Bitcoin a scam against the dollar. Now, some of you remember that. By September 2024, his sons had launched World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency company that would grow from zero to a $13 billion ecosystem in less than 18 months. By March 2025, the company had issued USD1, a dollar-pegged stablecoin backed by U.S. Treasury securities. By July 2025, Trump had signed the Genius Act into law, creating the federal regulatory framework that legitimized his own family's stablecoin. By January 2026, the charter for a new international governance body called the Board of Peace, with Trump as a permanent chairman, permanent seats purchasable for $1 billion each, and no congressional authorization whatsoever, was signed at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Read that sequence one more time. From a scam against the dollar to the architect of its replacement in 40 months. No single individual in modern history has moved the technocratic transition forward with such speed, such audacity, and such structural completeness. So here's my take, guys. As unpopular as it might be right now, I think that President Trump has taken the long view, and he's looking at post-presidency. What is the world going to look like post-presidency, and how can I be involved and have my fingers in it and shape it? I don't think this really, in my view, he's kicked Israel to the curb. His actions of betrayal, to me, he has betrayed Israel. He's betrayed Netanyahu. People can say, well, Trump's playing 4D chess while everybody else is playing checkers. Well, you got to show me that, because I'm not buying that line anymore. What I see going on here is a complete reversal. We could call it biblical prophecy. We could say, well, by his betrayal, he's left Iran in power to fulfill what's going to happen in Ezekiel. We could say that, but I'm going to look in the moment right here, and I say this is a total betrayal. Trump is looking out for his own interests post-presidency. And again, Tom, that's not very popular with his supporters, but that's my take.
No, that was great, Mike. Really appreciate it. John.
Your heads just exploded.
I bet. Oh,
no, I agree with my friend Mike. I don't like the way this is going. I mean, so I did this thing with some guys from Israel, one guy from Israel yesterday, and there are people in the chat going, oh, you're Israel first people. I'm like, if you can't see the threat that the Iranian regime poses to the United States of America if it gets a nuclear weapon, you're worse than moronic. It's stupid. But what I don't like in the Trump administration is the Turkey first contingent, Witkoff and Thomas Barak, and Kushner being the Qatari, along with Witkoff, part of that. I don't like that. It looks really, really bad. Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I went to the Middle East Forum Conference, and I don't know if we've talked since I was there or not, Tom. It was very interesting. These policy wonks from the Middle East, and military correspondents and people, experts on Islam and all this other stuff. And I was sitting there, and we did a war game on Turkey. By the way, a year ago, the Middle East Forum did a war game called The Strait. So these guys know what's going on. A year ago, before anything happened, before any attacks in the 12-day war and all that other stuff, the Middle East Forum was prescient enough to do a war game exercise on the Strait. This year, they did a war game exercise on Turkey and nuclear weapons. I played the role as the U.S. Secretary of State. We had 13 teams. I'll just give you really quick. When I drove down, I was thinking the whole way. We had like 40-page dossiers that we had to read before we went into this. Agreements, all that. I mean, it was crazy. The Turks drove us, the people playing the Turks drove us out of our minds. Everything they were negotiating. So I've come to this conclusion. that whatever, and the thing was about Turks getting nukes, nuclear fuel, because they're opening the largest nuclear plant under construction on the planet right now is in Turkey. It will open, the first part of it will open this year. All the stuff we've been going through with Iran on nuclear proliferation, enrichment of uranium and that type of thing, and then upgrading it to weapons grade, everything that we've gone through with Iran for 47 years, and I think I'm very comfortable saying this many times, everything we've gone through with Iran, the frustrating negotiations and everything, are going to happen with that timeline with Turkey is going to be compressed into about 3 years max. So when Trump, I already said when Trump praises him, and then Erdogan goes out there and says, we got to get rid of Hitler. And everything they're doing right now is expanding their borders, expanding their influence. Turkey's very active down in Libya, in Sudan, and Somalia. Think push and cut from Ezekiel 38. Clearly, Turkey region is involved in Ezekiel 38. And then they're moving into the Turkey. They have an organization of Turkic states into Central Asia, the former Soviet Stan republics that are all Islamic and Turkish. The Turks were colonizers. They want to be colonizers again. I think it's a mistake to say they want to recreate the Ottoman Empire. They want to create a global caliphate. And now, through their very clever, and this went on for 8 years before it happened, Erdogan had 50 bases around Idlib in northern Syria, where he trained these guys. They took over the Assad regime. And as David Wormser noticed, this is very important religious geopolitical earthquake when al-Shara's guys took over Damascus in December 8th, 2024. It was a religious and geopolitical earthquake in the Sunni world, because for the first time in 1,000 years, over 1,000 years, Turkey had the geopolitical religious capital of Damascus in its hands again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, factor that into, and we can argue about Isaiah 17 and everything. And I'm just saying this, look, we can argue whether that applies or not, but I'm just saying this. If it does apply, Damascus would be kind of an important place in the end times.
And regardless, the whole thing is absolutely fascinating. Mike, you have anything you want to share here? I know we're coming up. We're pretty much going to wrap up in a couple minutes. Well, anything with what John said, you want to jump on board with that, or anything else you want to tell everybody before we wrap up?
Yeah, I agree with John. I remember years and years ago, Chuck Missler said, keep your eyes on Turkey. And I thought, Turkey's not a threat. What's Turkey got to do with anything? Well, guess what? It's happened. He was a prophet of sorts, because that's where we're at today. Keep your eyes on Turkey. It's very fascinating. And to me, it looks a lot like what we're reading in the prophetic scriptures. It's coming down the pike, guys.
It is amazing to be alive right now. Mike, real quick, once again, people to go to your conference, how can they register?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Tom. GoThereforeConference.com. GoThereforeConference.com. We've got 7 wonderful brothers that are going to be presenting: Tom and John and Olivier, Carl Gallups, Derek Gilbert, Carl Tykrib, Greg Reed. I know I'm missing somebody, and please forgive me for that. But you can go register there July 24th and 25th, Friday and Saturday, at Harvest Revival Center in Brookville, Ohio. So hope to see you there, guys.
This is good. So neat. It's so. I think it's
Tom Hughes. You did mention Tom Hughes.
Oh,
Mike.
well, yeah, he did. Said Tom and John. I think he did. But I mean, it's so necessary right now. We have these conferences that we're doing in different areas in Ohio. Folks, if you're in that area, we would love to see you there. It'll be strengthening, super informative. It's going to build your faith. And doggone it, if we need it, if we've ever needed it, we need it now, because everything that is coming at us is trying to knock us off our game, the biblical game. And I would say register, go there we'll have the description in there coming up in a few minutes for you. John, any final words you have for everybody?
Look, you can probably guess I'm going to be talking on Turkey. At least I don't know how many times we're talking in that conference, but certainly I'll be bringing up Turkey. I think this is really right now with what's going on with Iran and Trump and all this stuff. This is a real inflection point geopolitically and prophetically. There's just no doubt about this. And I'm looking at Israel. I support Israel. I say, let them finish the job, stay out of their way. And just last week, Tom, they went into the tunnels under Beaufort Castle, that high point in southern Lebanon that they took. What did they find? Very detailed maps and plans about Hezbollah invading northern Israel, just like Hamas invaded Gaza. That was the plan. Fortunately, they've been able to stop that, but they've got to move that buffer zone back. And there's a lot we can talk about on the drone thing, but we don't have time.
Listen, we'll have to have both of you guys back on again before your conference. Mike, I'll get you both back on. Who knows, maybe Gary again too. But I know both of you will remember years ago, we used to hear about all of the noise that the people that were living up in the northern part of Israel, near the border of Lebanon, they would talk about it. They say, we're hearing something underneath our house. They could hear the chiseling. They could hear the hammering. They used to hear that, and nothing was ever done. And there they are, the plans, all of these things. We know there was a planned invasion of the Galilee area, too, on October 7th that didn't take place. But listen, regardless, we live in amazing days, and I could not encourage everybody. Look, you need to look up and lift up your head if you know the Lord Jesus Christ, because your redemption is near. And if you don't know him, I'm telling you, friends, you better get right with him, because all of these things the Bible spoke about are going to take place in the last days. And it's a reminder that Jesus came the first time. You must trust in the Lord Jesus Christ to forgive you of your sins. There's no other way to be saved. Turn to him now. God is trying to get our attention. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mike, for jumping in. Thank you, Gary McKibben, for earlier. And again, we hope to see you at the Go Therefore conference coming up in Ohio. God bless you, everybody.